So the first temple that we have here for the start of part 3 is the Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time. Take it away, Warren.
The Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time. This is one of the cases where I will never forget my first time playing the Shadow Temple, and it's one of those temples that nostalgia has a big factor in. Because the first time I played the Shadow Temple on my own, and I was just immersed in the environment and the creepy wavy chants, there was a moment when I paused the game to go get a drink, and I had to go down some creaky steps.
Right.
I opened the fridge, got the drink, and when I came back, I kind of couldn't see where I was going, but all I could hear in this hallway was the music to the Shadow Temple.
Whoa.
So it felt like the music to the Shadow Temple was echoing through my house.
Wow.
And it put a number on me for quite a while. I will never forget that moment. Because I remember just heading up the steps and the creeping...
Nice.
I'm just looking around, I'm just like, oh god, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's the game! I gotta go back to it. And I unpaused and I'm like, that scared the crap out of me.
How old were you then?
I was 13.
Wow. That's impressive. Wow. So, like, did you manage to pull your pants up and manage to get through the rest of the dungeon after that?
I did. I got through the rest of it, but I will never forget that, like, that moment, and the music especially, has a very, like, strong place in my heart.
Oof.
Because that song, like, made an impression in my life. It's the same thing that the title screen from Super Mario World has a big impression in my life, because it was the first game I ever played.
Yeah, the dun 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 dun, that one?
No, the title screen. Do 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 do.
Oh yeah, the dun 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 dun. That one?
Exactly, that one. Because at the age of 1, my father put me on his lap, handed me the controller, and that was one of the first video games I ever saw, and I was playing it.
Oh.
And that became like one of my big games. But I digress. We're talking about Ocarina of Time dungeons. It's a pretty good dungeon. I think it's the perfect contrast to the Water Temple, and how the Water Temple is kind of confusing and frustrating, whereas the Shadow Temple has a lot of booby traps and enemies that are out to kill you.
Kind of a bit more straightforward.
It's a bit more straightforward and possibly linear, but it's also more aggressive.
Yeah, especially
like you got guillotines, you got spinning scythes, you got invisible blades that can kill you when you're unaware of what they are, because you're just like, oh, the lens of truth. The hover boots are okay.
For me personally,
I don't hate them.
For me personally, with the Shadow Temple, is that I'm gonna be quite honest or something. This is my second worst Ocarina of Time dungeon out of everything. Is that I think everything works the first time for me personally. Is that when it comes to a scary movie or a scary game or something, it works wonders for your first time. But when you go back and do Ocarina of Time like another time, then it kind of wears off its no offense, but like its original idea really fast. It's like you know what to expect the next time that you go back in there. And then just for me or something, like I know that the black walls and the creepy music, like I know that well, in your case, like what you were talking about with your story, is that it kind of scares you or something. But for me, it's just kind of felt like for me it just kind of wore it off really quick. Is that I agree though, like the traps and with the lens of truth and with the hover boots, I think they were executed really well. It's just kind of the entire theme of it, the entire scary part of it that just kind of wore off with me. I
like the boat segment a lot.
Oh yeah, that's
like
fantastic.
Having
I love
two Stalfos on a moving platform where there's really not that much room is surprisingly very challenging. And even today, if I get too cocky, I can easily shit myself.
Yeah, especially when like the ship just like dives right into the swamp thing while you're fighting those Stalfos, right?
Yeah, they will sink if you take too long.
Yeah, I remember that during my first playthrough. It's just like, what happened? What? Oh, I remember when I played that as a kid. I think that was one of the only legitimate times in the temple where I seriously freaked out at what was happening. It's like, all of a sudden I had ground underneath me. Then it's like the opposite. It's like the same thing with the Wallmaster with the forest temples. That it just comes out of nowhere. It's like, holy crap, where did this thing come from?
Yeah, both the Forest Temple and the Shadow Temple have the most surprises. The Water Temple has a lot of, ugh, not this. What's this? Why? But the Shadow Temple has a lot of, oh shit, what hit me? Wow, I didn't see that there.
Yeah, that's the best part about it. And I remember though too is that I think you had to. It was mandatory for you to get the Din Spire before you came to this place, especially in opening up the dungeon.
Yes, it was.
I remember the first time when I came across it, I just like saw all these empty torches or something, and I didn't have the fire arrows or the Din Spire. I was like, what do I do here?
Yeah, that would definitely stump you.
Yeah, that's one of the big things about Zelda is that it may be true that some things are optional to get and some things are required, but some of the required things that you need are not directly in your path, so you kind of have to go out and explore a little bit to find those things.
Right.
Like, for example, the bottom of the well before you come into this place.
I was just going to talk about the bottom of the well. Yeah, it was like a nice appetizer before the main entree. Mm-hmm. Like, it gave you a little piece, and it introduced me to what stands as the most unnerving mini-boss in the Zelda franchise, Dead Hand.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
That thing is so bizarre, and so... It looks like something you'd see in Resident Evil.
Have you ever...
And it doesn't fit, and yet it does.
Have you ever seen one of... Have you ever seen like those still images or something like online,
yeah.
where it's like about to eat the head or something? It's like
I've used a couple of those.
Yeah, those
as little jokes.
I think it's like the teeth or something that kind of bothers me the most about him, and the way that he walks. He just kind of slouches.
It's the way he moves and his neck, like it kind of like slouches to where he looks like he has a broken neck.
Yeah.
And like this enemy is revisited with Death's Sword in Twilight Princess.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That mini boss, he also looks like he like hung himself or something.
Yeah, you were talking about with the Arbiter's Grounds, right?
Yes, and we'll get to that another time, but that was another mini boss that was like very disturbing, and on the one hand you're like, does this fit in Zelda? And then you just think about it twice and it's like, of course it fits in Zelda, even though it's very unnerving. I like the way compared to the rest of the enemies that you've seen.
I like the way that he just like turns around and just starts howling every time you hit him.
Yep.
It's just like, holy crap, what kind of game am I playing now? I think Arbiter's Grounds and the Shadow Temple, in my opinion, is where it's the most out of place in a Zelda game, but you have to think about it. With Zelda, it's about a dark world, so at the same time, it is fitting at the same time in the way that every Zelda game has to, try original ideas from one temple to the next, and I think, in my honest opinion, like the Shadow Temple, like after the first time, its theme kind of wore off for me, but for everything else, like the hover boots and with the traps and with the silver rupees and the secrets and the traps, or did I say traps already?
Yeah, you said traps already.
You said traps twice, but overall, really good dungeon. I really liked it.
Glad to hear it, because I agree. It's the middle dungeon for me when it comes to the Ocarina of Time temples. It's the middle one. Like it has things that though frustrating, I can look past them. And it has some good elements, though they do lose some flavor, like you said, when you revisit them. Mm-hmm. That being said, it doesn't ruin the whole experience. It is still a very well-designed dungeon.
Okay. So the next dungeon that we have next is the Water Temple from...
the infamous Water Temple from Ocarina of Time.
I want to ask you something before we start, Warren. Like, do you think... Well, back then, like, the Water Temple and things, like, people hyped it up to being, like, one of the worst temples of all time or something, but, do you think that hate is still deserved? Like, after 15 years or something, we know how to now navigate through this dungeon now? Like,
here's the thing about the Water Temple, and this is just my experience. The Water Temple is actually not that bad of a dungeon, so long as two things. Number one, you know how which Triforce symbol puts the water at which level. Like which one puts it down, which one puts it halfway, which one fills it all the way up. Right. The 3DS fixes that. It's kind of helpful. But if you could memorize it, you were on a good shape. Two, and it was fixed in the 3DS version, that damn one key that's hidden that just makes you feel like you gotta restart the game because you're like, where the hell? Like, I have one key. 2 locked doors. Damn it, where'd this one come from? And in the 3DS version, they give you an extra little cutscene where the camera pans because for the longest time I forgot when I raise the damn water, that platform is there and I can go down there. Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah. I got something to bring up with Warren is that the key in the center of the thing, that's kind of a complaint towards the Water Temple, but there's also a key like that in the Forest Temple in the very first room of the dungeon. Or if you don't have the strategy guide, and if people usually, don't look off to the side, they usually look to doors or something to find the keys. Like, Do you think that complaint kind of holds up today, like with both of the dungeons, or do you think that's just...
When it comes to the Forest Temple is more open. It doesn't really have that tedium to where it's like you got to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. All right, I screwed up. I got to go backwards. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. With the Forest Temple, you kind of can look at your map and be like, okay, there's this room, this room, this room. Like you can easily access each room once you understand how the Forest Temple works.
Right.
With the Water Temple, even if you know how it works, you still got to go to the point where you can raise that water to a specific point.
Right.
So there is extra backtracking that the Forest Temple does not have.
Oh yeah, because you got like 12 rooms to navigate through like 3 floors.
I honestly feel the 3DS version took a step a little too far.
Oh really?
In fixing the Water Temple. Yes, I do. Because the Water Temple has those colored lines on which goes where, and I think it's way too hand-holding. I think you were fine with just having the symbol, this raises the water here, and that cutscene. That's all that was needed. You did not need the taper along the walls that they're basically an arrow that says, raise water level this way. And it's like, okay, fine. Because when I was going through the 3DS version of the Water Temple, it left barely no impression for me.
Oh, so I haven't played the 3DS version before, so like do they have like some kind of symbols or something outside of the water levels and saying you should do this and then you should do that?
Yes, they have basically like glowing lines that point to where the rooms that raise the level are. And it's red for the bottom, green for the middle, and blue for the top, I think.
Oh, really? Wow.
And you just follow those paths and you're good to go. And I'm just like, that's a little too hand-holding for my taste. I was fine with just the symbol that they put next to the Triforce symbol that basically indicates this one's bottom level, this one's middle level, this one's top level. And it's like, got it. And the Water Temple has a fantastic mini-boss.
Oh, like you're talking about Shadow Link.
Yeah, Dark Link. It has just a very surreal, unnerving, like, at the time, it was something you didn't see before, but it's more fitting to Majora's Mask when you look about it nowadays. To that kind of environment, and then a shadow and like a dark version of yourself. And how it's an enemy that really wants you to think outside the box and not just go to just smash him, just slash him.
It's kind of ironic, though, that he's not in the Shadow Temple of all places.
I think that's what makes it works the best, because you'd assume it would be in the Shadow Temple, but here he is kind of like a dark reflection of yourself.
Oh, almost like water. You know, like when you look into water, you see a reflection of yourself?
And, yeah, exactly. And another interesting tidbit about the Water Temple is when you go there the first time, you don't really know that you're going to get an upgrade for the hook shot. So you're kind of unnerved that is just a little too far. And you stand on the edge of the platform to try and be like, maybe I just have to be a little, come on, hit. And then you get the long shot and it's like, that makes sense. Okay.
Oh, for me personally with the Water Temple, I'll tell you about my experiences, is that the first couple of times was when I had the hardest time with it. Like, the first time I had no problems at all, remember where all the water level things were. I remember the first time the thing that bugged me the most about it was that platform in the middle that kind of stumped me for a little bit. Oh, actually on the first time I think I found it just fine, and then for some reason on the second time I forgot about it. So when I went for that locked door, I was like, well, I did this the first time, what did I do last time? And then I forgot about that.
Because it's either that key that I forget, or when I do remember it, it's the one in the middle that you have to bomb the wall that just kind of whoop.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring that up.
I forget that one even exists. In fact, one of my first Let's Plays was Ocarina of Time, and that was the key that stumped me and made it 2 parts longer than it should have been. But that Let's Play is taken down. I'll probably redo it in the way future. But that was the key that I was just like, odd. I get this key correct, and I finally nailed the platform that stumped me when I was a kid, and now I got this son of a bitch that I got as a kid that I completely forgot about.
Yeah, so it felt like after the first third of the dungeon, when you're like done with all of the locked doors, it felt like everything past that point, like it felt like the Water Temple was great, though. This is kind of something for me personally, is that this is something I have to bring up, is the Iron Boots, is that I know that a lot of Zelda players have been like panning it, but I don't know if this is just like me or not or something, but it feels like the internet, just for me personally, is that they're just hyping it up to be something like really, really, really bad or something. But I remember when I was going through it, like the first time or the second time or something, I didn't really mind it or anything. It just only took like 2 or 3 seconds of your time to just switch things around, just like you've done with other items.
Well, you do
in Ocarina of Time.
I really don't like that argument that you do too much pausing in newer Zelda games, because I did the most pausing in Link to the Past. Because you only can store one sub-item, so I'm like, oh, need the bow, now I gotta switch to the boomerang, now I gotta switch to the lantern. Meanwhile, Twilight Princess is like, bow, boomerang, hook shot, oh, by the way, the lantern's its own button. You're welcome.
Yeah, the Twilight Princess had 4 slots, I remember.
Yep.
Well, depending on which version you played, anyways.
Well, the Wii version.
Yeah, that's right. GameCube had the same as Wind Waker.
Yeah, it had 3.
Alright, the next dungeon that we have after this is the Ganon Tower from Ocarina of Time, which is the dungeon that we've been talking about in every single final dungeon up to this point, and how great this place is compared to everything else.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how it's done. This is how you cap off a finale to a Zelda game.
Let me just take this rag right here, just spit on it, and just, just start cleaning the other final dungeons with this one and say, you know what, this is the benchmark right here. This is how you're supposed to do it.
It really is, because I think we hit the nail on the head. It takes items that you're familiar with puzzles that you never would have thought you could use them with. Like, you go into these rooms and it's like, okay, it's a fire room. I have the hammer, and what the hell is this? What am I doing? Oh, I got the gauntlets, and no, I gotta upgrade the gauntlets. Interesting.
Yeah, I think
it's the forest room, and yet I have to use the lens of truth.
Yeah, you're using unpredictable items at unpredictable moments. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that what stands it up as so great as a rank. I'm looking at my rank right here, and it's actually number 7, is that it's just the shock value of coming in here. And even today, like when I come back to Ocarina of Time or something, like I can still find some of these obstacles, even though I know what to do. I still have a hard time with them sometimes, like with the hover boot section.
They can give you some nasty punches if you're either too cocky or you're not fully aware of what they want you to do.
Like for example with the hover boot sections, like in the Forest Temple section where you got to use the fan to blow yourself like over a silver rupee and everything. And then I remember, like, this is actually more of a complaint, actually more than a compliment, is the Fire Temple one, is that you remember trying to use the hover boots and trying to get onto the granite, and if you aren't exactly level when you land on those granite things, you're just going to get tossed into the lava. You can't even grip it. You have to land right on it.
I like switch at the last second.
Yeah, so like, oh, that's actually a good idea. I should have done that. Is that I remember during the hover boot section is that you got to land right on top of it and the Link won't grip it. So and it has collapsible platforms too, which is not fun. But
and I mean the first half of Ganon's Tower is those puzzle aspects where you have to break the seals for the 6 sages and stuff like that. And then the second half is this beautiful climbing action to the climax where the music's building up, it gets louder. The further up you go, like all the toughest mini bosses, like even the Lizalfos have a new version, like the Dinalfos, and they're a bit quicker and they hit a bit harder, and like that's the only place you can see a Dinalfos in the whole game. The Stalfos are much more aggressive because I believe there's 3 now.
Oh, that, and there's the what is the?
And then you have 2 Iron Knuckles side by side.
That's what they were called, the Iron Knuckles.
Yeah, you have 2 Iron Knuckles side by side. So it's like a very, like, not rehashing bosses more or less as kind of like giving you the Ganon standard minions, the Lizalfos, the Stalfos, and the Iron Knuckles, but in a new, refreshing way.
Right. So
and it's such a beautiful climax.
So I'm actually looking through your rankings here a little bit, and it says here that you put it around like number 17, like it.
Yeah.
That's kind of more like middle ground for all of us, just like when we're putting something around that rank. Like, is there like anything about the Ganon Tower that didn't like live up to your expectations? Is it just too short or something?
No. It was more. Final dungeons never really do it for me. The final battles do, but the final dungeons are more like, okay, very nice, very nice. I want to get to all the other dungeons like leave a stronger impression.
Like an original idea.
Yes, whether good or negative. The final dungeon is just like a little extra sour cream. I like the sour cream in this case. It was nice, but not sour cream. That's disgusting.
It's not an original idea. It does it casserole style.
Yeah.
It's great that it like, kind of like throws around all of these different ideas or something, but it's not an idea of its own to really go on.
And like the reason I appreciate it the most is, like I said, I can't stress this enough. Items you've been using in new and unfamiliar ways, whereas Wind Waker and to an extent, Skyward Sword, Skyward Sword kind of doesn't break outside the boundaries.
It just, yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, with Ganon's Tower and things, it's not like the Spirit Temple, like both of us have been praising like gods at the moment.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the last part.
I'm keeping that wrapped in a pretty bow.
But, like, it is true, though. Like, if you look at the Forest Temple and the Spirit Temple and the Water Temple or something, like, those are strong, original ideas of their own right. And then when you look at Ganon's Tower, like, I think this just goes for all of the final dungeons, is that you can't really match up to those original ideas of dungeon wandering, you know?
Exactly. You can't match it, and another thing, this is a list that solely focuses on the dungeons, not the bosses. So I can't account the finale, the final battle in Ocarina of Time, which is a very good final battle, and that I'll save that for another tangent some other time. But that being said, when you're forced to subtract that, Ganon's Tower, even in Ocarina of Time, is not going to stand that high. But it fits nicely in the middle.
Yeah. It's like it does its job well. Like, this is just going for every single video game out there, is that when it comes to the final battle, it's good to mix up a lot of things, like, here and there, and it did it wonderfully. Like, the difficulty is high, and you use the items in unpredictable ways and in unpredictable situations.
Final levels, for me, are the hardest to get right. Because at that point, you badly want the final battle, but at the same time, you feel like you want to work for it. And in some games, the game's fatigue as a whole has really reached its peak. To where you just want this thing done. You want one last challenge, and then you want those credits to roll. To go through an entire dungeon or an entire area filled with so much crap can either be something that makes you despise it, or you can be like, whatever, I'll go through this, I'll beat this guy, I'll go through this, I'll beat this third recolor of this boss, I'll do this, I'll open this door, there's the final boss, Yeah,
I guess that's just...
And, like, that's not restricted to Zelda, that complaint. That's to pretty much the majority of video games I've ever played.
Well, except for Super Mario World, right?
Final levels are very hard... that one's okay. Okay, final levels are very hard to nail when it comes to video games.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff to go off of. For me personally, though, like, I think it did an excellent job. Number 7, it's one of the hardest points in the Ocarina of Time for me, is that I think there was a lot of points where it could have done it wrong, in my opinion, and that's the reason I ranked it high, like at number 7, is that I think it did a lot of things spectacular, and it got my difficulty cravings running. It did a lot of unpredictable things for my tastes, and it just and even today when I go back to it, it still feels challenging, you know, to it was since back then, or maybe not as challenging since you know, doing it the first time and everything. But overall, both of us have our own, I don't know, ways to interpret it, I guess.
Cheers to that.
Alright, the next temple that we have here is the Temple of Time from Twilight Princess, and and this one looks like you've got quite a bit of things to start saying about this one.
It's just unmemorable, especially since Twilight Princess, I feel, has the strongest dungeons out of the series. The Temple of Time, a hallway, and hey, remember my complaints to the Tower of the Gods? Yeah. Well, let's just copy and paste those complaints right here.
Okay.
Because the Dominion Rod is okay.
You can say it's bad, you know.
What? Okay, it's bad. I don't like it. The Dominion Rod is pretty bad.
I know that hidden tone.
There's a lot of canes and wands in the Zelda universe. This is one of the worst.
Yeah.
You couldn't give me the cane of Samaria or something like that. You had to give me like a cane that just possesses a giant Armos for a couple seconds and then he's done.
I was like the King of Samaria from Oracle of Ages, right? Or is
Either
that
that
from
or
Link to the Past?
I think it's from A Link to the Past.
Oh, I think there's a cane like that in Oracle of Ages
There
too.
is. There's a lot of canes. There's a cane that creates blocks. There's canes that
I remember A Link to the Past has two of them, and I think the second one creates.
What does the other one do?
I think the second one creates an invincible barrier, but it drains your magic as fast as the giant.
I thought that was the cape.
Oh, that's the invisible cape. But there's also two canes. There's the first one. I forgot what it does. I think it creates blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the second one creates a circular light or something. It's blue. I remember it creates a circular light around Link, and it drains his magic like no tomorrow.
Okay. That being said, back to the Temple of Time. I don't like the Dominion Rod. I think it's the weakest item out of, if not the series, definitely Twilight Princess.
Oh,
and that includes the spinner.
Uh-huh.
Which the spinner is kind of like a bottle rocket. You get excited, and then after a while, it's like, ooh, okay, its novelty has faded.
Yeah, it's just kind of something that wears off really quick.
I don't think it was used to its fullest potential, but
I'll think
that's
about
neither here nor there.
Think about it like Tower of the Gods, is that the command melody, it works, but not for what it's trying to go for in execution.
Right, yeah.
You're trying to get these towers or these little tiki statues to start following you, and it's like, oh, come on. Mm-hmm. And I have that complaint too about the Temple of Time. Remember, it's my worst Twilight Princess dungeon.
Yep.
I don't like that. I seriously don't like the Dominion Rod. I think I would have liked it more if it had more than one concept going for it.
Same.
I think it works somewhat decently, and I say that in massive air quotes, is that I think it works for the puzzle that it's going for. And that's the big thing. I dropped it down to number 12, is that's the only complaint. But the biggest guilty pleasure about this dungeon for me, it's just the music. And at least it tried to go for an original idea, compared to the other Twilight Princess dungeons to keep it going. But I seriously think the Dominion Rod can seriously burn.
I think it would have been a better idea if, instead of these short guide these statues to here, what if they were like a familiar? And they were kind of fighting for you, and you had to use these different puzzles, when to use them to fight, when to use them to defend, when to use them to activate puzzles.
I'd actually dig that idea.
You get the Dominion Rod from the beginning, and then you have control of the statue, and all throughout this dungeon, it's you and this statue, kind of like how the Phantoms do it in Spirit Tracks, when Zelda's a Phantom.
Oh yeah, that's right. Just like when she starts possessing the different knights.
Exactly, and then you use her to kind of solve certain puzzles. That's how I think the Dominion Rod could have been better implemented.
Just kind of like a rock, paper, scissors fashion?
Mm-hmm. To where this statue is not just, a giant chess piece that you guide to set switch over here, da-da-da-da, but it's more of your partner throughout this dungeon. It's here to help you.
Yeah, and I think the other problem, though, too, with the Temple of Time, man, it makes me wonder, more and more or something, whether number 12 is really the right place for it. Because, I have Spirit Temple at number 13. I had the Spirit Temple at number 13, and I was like, I don't know. I'd probably put it worse than the Spirit Temple now. Maybe I'm just so nostalgic.
Definitely.
Maybe I'm just so nostalgically prone to Twilight Princess that I didn't really think about ranking that one properly. Maybe I should have put it lower. And now I'm looking at number 14. Now I'm looking at number 14 with Lanayru Mining Facility, and I'm starting to think that even the Temple of Time is even worse than that.
That's the trouble with some of these discussions. After a while, you start rethinking your second guesses because someone puts a fact that you didn't quite think of before, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, changed my mind. Believe that.
Okay, let me re-rank this one here really quick. I think I'd probably put
We're on the set, sir.
Okay, maybe
people are watching this. They don't care about your editing corner. Bottom line, the Temple of Time isn't really that memorable. It has a Dominion Rod, but it's not used to its full potential. There's not that many new enemies here to spice things up, and none of the puzzles even leave an impression. You've seen it before if you've played the Tower of the Gods, and even if you haven't, trust me, you've seen it before.
And also, though, too, is that your number one dungeon ever, like the Forest Temple from Twilight Princess, is that that one's completely non-linear. That one has a lot of options for you to go run around in the dungeon with, and the Temple of Time is directly the opposite concept of that.
Yep, it's a hallway. It belongs in Final Fantasy 13, not in this.
Yeah, it's I know that the Goron Mines does it too. I think those are the two dungeons in this game that does it more than any other dungeon is, just kind of doing a linear hallway style.
Yeah, they're fairly linear, but linear doesn't automatically mean bad, so long as you make things interesting during that linear journey. I feel Goron Mines does it a little better than Temple of Time.
Oh yeah, that's true. Since you've got to go hunt out and look for the 3 sections of the key. And you can't just do that just by picking one path and saying, okay, I'm done.
Oh wait, but there is one thing I like about the Temple of Time.
Oh yeah?
The Dark Nut.
Oh, you're talking about the mini-boss.
Yep, the Dark Nut.
Oh yeah, I remember when he like flings a sword or something. Like
he's very cool, very aggressive, and yeah, like you said, he flings a sword and then he draws another one.
I always love Link's expression when he sees that sword just like flying past him. He's like, "What? The crap was that?" He just like jumps right out of the way. He's like, "What the crap was that?"
He's like, I didn't expect him to do that.
That was probably my favorite emotion from Link throughout the entire game, is that he just jumps out of the way. He's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before.
No. My favorite was after beating Armagoma, and he's just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh yeah, that's right. But of course, we can't keep the boss into our rankings.
Oh good, because if I counted the boss, it would go even lower.
Oh really? You don't like Armagoma?
Nope. But that's for another time.
Yeah. Yeah, overall or something, I didn't really mind the linearity. Just I played a lot of 2D video games when I was younger, so I like Four Swords Adventures too. And I never really minded linearity at all in video games for me personally. Like, it's a great bonus and everything to be non-linear or something in video games, but if the dungeon is fun, it's fun. It doesn't matter if linearity is part of it, but I do agree with you with everything else, like with the Dominion Rod and for me, the place is just a little bit too formal for my taste. I always like the natural, edgy, the natural-looking dungeons. Like the Goron Mines, it has fire breathing around, and the Forest Temple, it makes it look more like a forest.
See, that's interesting, because that's a point I disagree on. I kind of like how it's more of a peaceful, almost church-like sanctuary area that's infested with monsters. I just think they could have went more with that. But then again, they do that better with Hyrule Castle.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the big thing that I think I'm starting to notice that, like when I don't like the Ancient Cistern and I don't like the Temple of Time, and I just don't like these formal dungeons. They really do drive me up the wall. Is that I like Zelda dungeons where you see more of the natural elements at work.
Sometimes yes, but other times I like to see what else there can be. Like, it doesn't just have to be a fire dungeon. It could be something else. It could be like a water garden as Skyward Sword showed us, or a giant pirate ship.
And surprisingly, like Temple of Time,
or the belly of a whale.
That's true. Yeah, maybe that's why I like Lord Jabu Jabu's belly, is that it looks more natural looking rather than, I don't know. I've never really been. I guess everybody just kind of has those dungeons just in general, is that everybody has a certain type of environment they don't like looking at, and I guess mine is just I don't like formal places. Where they look more sanctuary-ish or more churchish, or that don't bring out the natural environments too well. Maybe that's why I don't like the sand ship, is that I don't like looking at wood. I like looking at more. I think if it was more open world, like I know that we can talk about this in the sand ship later, but if it was more open world with more directly connected with the sand or something, then I would have liked that place a lot more.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. All right. The next dungeon that we can talk about is the Earth Temple from Skyward Sword.
The thing about the Earth Temple from Skyward Sword, and it kind of backs up why I'm very distasteful towards the Fire Sanctuary, is I feel like I got my fix with the Earth Temple.
Yeah.
There's nothing the Fire Sanctuary could have done that would have, like, the only thing I liked, again, was the Girahim fight, or the mini-boss.
You and your Girahim fights.
I like them.
Every time that one of these Skyward Sword dungeons comes up, I like the Girahim fight.
I do! They're good!
They are good. What about these dungeons? They need some love. I'm just kidding.
We haven't gotten to them yet! We're still in the ones that I'm kind of with.
And besides, there's only like, 2 or 3 fights with Girahim or something? So I guess I shouldn't complain, huh?
No, this is only the second time. We did Skyview, that was the first one. This is the Earth Temple, that's the second one. There is no third one.
Yeah, okay.
That's its own thing.
Alright, we'll save the Girahim love for, like, boss talk or something like later.
No, don't you dare. You're not dragging me into another giant Zelda project.
No, I'm gonna be done with Zelda.
If we do a Zelda talk, it will be in 2017, or I won't do it. I time-stamped it.
Oh,
You can't undo it.
Hey, I'm getting burned out of Zelda really badly too after these 35 dungeons are done. Sorry viewers for anybody who might hear this, but I might retire from Zelda for a while, at least, to go after other projects. Okay, back to the Skyward Sword.
Yes, Earth Temple.
So I have to admit, the ball, I know that it's not anything phenomenal or anything complicated with that, but oh my gosh, I have to admit it's one of the most charming things I've ever seen in the world.
Balancing on the ball?
Oh, like rolling on them.
In the lava?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I know it's like really simple and it's not really complicated to think something like that out, but it's just unbelievably charming to see Link just walk across lava like that with the balls.
Speaking of like giant boulders and stuff, I do like the practically Indiana Jones nod before the boss fight of where the rock comes down and you're going down the slope and you have to pace yourself and get the right speed boost.
Yeah, I actually didn't like that part too much because the camera was too close to Link to see any green orbs on the ground.
I kind of liked it because it reminded me of those old like chase segments. Like I can't really think of them. Maybe a Jurassic Park video game to where you're trying to position yourself and you have you and the enemy behind you, and you kind of like got to keep your focus on things coming from the foreground. Like another example would be The Lion King. Only I think The Lion King didn't do it as good.
Yeah, you're talking about the Stampede, right?
Yeah, the Stampede in The Lion King.
Uh-huh.
I liked the one puzzle that you actually have to check your map.
Oh, yeah, that one.
I thought that was implemented pretty well.
I don't...
And, Skyward Sword has my favorite rendition of the Lizalfos.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about those guys that have the big arms for shields and then they use their tails to whiplash you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually...
They're not highly defensive enemies, and they're not really highly aggressive enemies. They're more taunt enemies.
Yeah, they try to get you to use your try to make you feel like that you're above them or something, and then they just come by and just whack you with their tails.
Like, their whole objective is to frustrate you to where you're not thinking, and then they can just whack the crap out of you. And I think that's a brilliant design.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like a ripoff or anything from Dodongo's Cavern from Ocarina of Time at all.
No, it seemed like a gentle nod.
Yeah, it's like it did it. They executed it in quite a different way than Ocarina of Time did. So I actually enjoyed those Lizalfo fights quite a bit.
Yeah, I like those Lizalfos a little more than I like the Twilight Princess ones. I like the Twilight Princess ones because they just look badass.
I have to admit, another...
I love the kind of Triceratops skull for a helmet design.
Uh-huh.
That's really cool. Or, I guess in this world it would be a Dodongo skull.
All right. I remember one of the other thing that charmed me about this dungeon was the rolling bombs. I know some Zelda players kind of found it frustrating to aim those things, but I thought it was implemented very well. Like, you can pick up bombs and put them... You can, like, put them into your pockets or something. It's like, holy cow! You can't do this in Ocarina of Time.
I've said this multiple times, and Skyward Sword is just a game that's just divided. There's things that you're not going to like, and there's things that you might like. And it's different for almost every single player.
Uh-huh. It feels like the...
No two people are going to have the same experience with Skyward Sword. Even the people who hate it, all hate it for different reasons. There's recurring reasons, linearity, the imprisoned boss fights. There's recurring complaints, but still everyone's experience for the most part is fairly different.
Like, for example, with me with the last 3 dungeons is that they just felt like they tried something new, which is something I praise Skyward Sword for. It's just something that didn't work for my natural taste, that's all.
That's right.
And it's just like, those aren't bad dungeons at all. Like, Ancient Cistern and things, that might be my worst Zelda dungeon from Skyward Sword or something, but that does not mean it is a bad dungeon. At all.
Yeah, I can see that.
Ancient Cistern is not a bad dungeon. It did everything that it was supposed to be. It innovated it with its own thing going for it, and I said it was a suit and tie thing.
Yeah.
That may be true, but that's just me, though.
Right.
But otherwise,
that's a matter of perspective. And that's really what a majority of Zelda dungeons are. Though you can argue that there are the mechanics of what works, what could be done better. And that's kind of what I like to touch on sometimes when I talk about dungeons. It's like, yes, here's my personal taste and my preference, but here's mechanic-wise why I like and dislike this dungeon. And for Earth Temple, I thought it was okay. It was decent. I really liked the Skyview Temple. I found the Earth Temple was a little step back. But again, you got a very interesting puzzle using your map, which I like thinking outside the box. The Zolfos are geared up and ready to go. Rolling Bombs is a really cool implementation that just kind of clicked with me. I don't know why some people had difficulty with it. I didn't.
Oh, I know Joe did.
And again, the music, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. It's really mellow, and I actually like the guys that you talked to in here. They were extremely helpful.
The Mogmas.
Yeah, those guys were extremely helpful. Like every time they popped out at the ground and just wanted to talk to you, it's just like they always had some kind of helpful tips to leave to you.
Yep.
They didn't do it like Fee did or anything. And just
they didn't overstay their welcome.
Yeah, it's just like Fee. It's just like, here, pick up an item and let me talk to you for about 2 minutes about how this item works. It's like, dude, I just picked up the item and it told me what I should do with it. You don't have to tell it to me again.
Okay. So yeah,
there's a lot of anti-Fee hate going on in here.
Oh, that's fine. It's nothing I haven't heard before.
Yeah, it's just like I like Navi and Midna and things. I thought they were kind of mellow and pointed things out as they were supposed to.
I've grown immune to that stuff.
Yeah,
that stuff just doesn't bother me at all.
I'm perfectly okay with those, but V is just like, okay, I don't mind it or anything. I didn't mind their personality, but just keep it a tad back. And it's just like, you don't have to tell me what the item does again after the item tells me what I should do with it. It's just like, dial it back a little bit, and you know what? V would have been alright, but just a little bit too much.
Well said.
Alright, the next dungeon that we have next is Hyrule Castle from Twilight Princess. This is actually the interesting one because this used to be my least favorite Twilight Princess dungeon, then you talked me out of it and said that Temple of Time was actually the worser one.
Well, I wasn't trying to brainwash you and say, no, Temple of Time was worse. I was just stating my argument. No. Nothing can beat Temple of Time in forms of blandness for me. That one takes the trophy in spades.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that Hyrule Castle is only just one rank above the Temple of Time, so you barely saved it. But
I know.
You brainwashed me into changing my entire hated dungeons list. I'm just kidding.
It's okay. When it comes to Hyrule Castle, I think it's my second favorite final dungeon.
Yeah?
Like, not only because, well, it didn't really do the, hey, let's do the Fire Temple and the Water Temple and the Forest Temple and the Final Temple again. No, it was kind of its own thing. And I know you don't like formal areas, but I really like this in a story aspect because it seemed like a lost, empty place. And I touched about this when we talked way back with the Twilight Palace, and how they're kind of a yin and yang, and how one place is sort of like dark and lonely and brooding, while the other place is kind of
more
holy and silent and kind of spooky in a way.
Yeah, it complements the Hyrule Castle a lot more because after people take it over, nobody's going to be there.
Exactly.
It's kind of like the same thing with Ocarina of Time with Ganon's Tower, is that there's not really too much resistance between you climbing the tower up to Ganondorf. You're just kind of reminiscing of what's going to happen once you start reaching the top.
And when you first step through those doors, you kind of reflect on how this place was like a lot more infested in A Link to the Past, because the same melody from A Link to the Past is playing. So you think back to that. But it's like very silent, like there's no one here. Even enemies are few and far between.
It just feels like they're more scattered, and they kind of run off because they knew that Link was coming.
And it seems like Ganon is there just reflecting on like his entire life and everything. But he's keeping it concealed because he's just sitting there, kind of gloating and waiting. But he's basically alone. Like there's nowhere near as many monsters or foes as there were in Ocarina of Time, when he was just more amused playing the organ, because that's how confident he was.
He's just kind of just sitting there and just waiting.
Yeah, he's just waiting for the inevitable to come, and like, will it be the light to prevail or will it be the darkness? And he's anticipating it because he knows that it's the destiny, it's what's going to happen. And another thing that I really liked about Hyrule Castle was it really ended this kind of little side story we had with the giant Moblin guy.
Oh, you're talking about the let's see, what's his name?
Like King Bulblin? Or
Yeah,
whatever his
that's
name
it,
is?
King Bulblin.
Yeah, King Bulblin. You have been basically harassed by this guy since the very beginning. And he's been more of a threat than Zant in a sense. Because he's the one that invaded your village and knocked out your friends and got you into this whole mess.
He kidnapped
He's
one
the
of the
one
children.
that kidnapped the children from the Kakariko village, and you had to go out and face him.
And then the second time was when he put up resistance when you were delivering that sword kid over to the...
Yeah, you put up resistance, and he's also like right around the Arbiter's Ground area.
Oh yeah, and he had that big weapon that... Actually,
Yeah, he has a big club that he brings back here in Hyrule Castle.
yeah,
And it was here that it was kind of like, it all comes down to this. It was between you and this asshole all throughout this game, basically.
Uh-huh.
And there was like a small rivalry here. And it was like a kind of rivalry that wasn't important story-wise as Zant and Girahim are, but it was kind of like its own thing between you, the player, and this monster that would just kind of get in your way. And you're like, what's your purpose here?
Yeah, it's just kind of a subplot.
And it's interesting how it's resolved because it's not like some big flashy death or anything. He just basically goes, you know what? I quit. Good luck to you.
Yeah, he said, I think
and
he
then
said something
like,
he said something. Yeah, I think he like said something like, I only follow the strongest. That's the only thing I've known about him in my life.
Yep.
And so he saw that you were stronger than Ganondorf, and he just runs off. And
yep, he says, you know what? I'm done. You're stronger than Ganondorf. You can do it. You've kicked my ass enough. Have a good day.
I think there's actually another subplot that ends here, though, too. When you do the air alphas, when you you use the claw shot to bring his shields, like Scorpion style, like, get over here!
Yeah.
And the style is that I think there's like some kind of point or something where an airborne enemy starts coming towards you, like an arrow or something. Then I remember the what group is it? A group comes by to
the Resistance.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is another good moment with Hyrule Castle. Like, you finally see people other than Link, sage-like characters. You see the common folk doing shit. You see them like attack, and one of them has a frickin' bazooka. And they, like, attack, like, the minions of Ganondorf. And it's, like, something so new and fresh.
Right.
And it really gets you pumped and encouraged, like, yeah, thanks, guys. You got my back.
Hey,
I'm going to take on Ganondorf.
Can I say a complaint against Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask?
Make it quick.
Like, the thing is, though, like, this is just Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. This is where I felt like they did a lot better with it. Is that it's great and things, with Ocarina of Time just kind of leaving you in this lonely world and everything. I think that's its strongest point, but I also think it's also the thing that dates it a little bit, because when you play the further 3 games, you interact with so many different characters that makes the story more complex than, okay, you go to this dungeon, you go to Ganondorf, and then you're done. Because it actually makes the world a lot more full for you to take care of characters like that, like when it comes to the further 3 games I was talking about. And this here, like in Twilight Princess, like when you see the Resistance and King Bulblin and a few of these other characters or something, it's like the world is actually more than one-dimensional. There's actually characters where you actually get to see their end story.
Right. Well, I can go a little bit both ways. I think the biggest point you can say is if you're invested in these stories, they're really powerful and they really work. But let's say you're not. You'd kind of prefer the Majora's Mask Ocarina of Time to where it's just like the level. You don't really care about the story you're in. You just kind of want to finish the level, and you kind of care more about the gameplay aspect. And there's some who are like that. Some that prefer the gameplay to certain Zeldas more than the story. I personally love the stories of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, so it was more gravy for my potatoes. But some people, maybe not so much. Another thing we have to keep in mind. In Twilight Princess, Ganondorf has basically seized power again and just reobtained it and is slowly building his army or whatever, or preparing for the final battle. In Ocarina of Time, he's pretty much already won. He's ruled this land for 7 years, desecrated Hyrule Castle, drove out most of the civilians and infested it with monsters. So he's basically at the top of the game, and when you reach Ganon's castle, it's supposed to look dead. and like there's nothing there, and there's not that many characters, and you're kind of this last hope, whereas everyone else they're kind of shouldering away. In Twilight Princess, this is an age of more confidence.
Yeah, it's more in confliction at the moment.
Yeah, I feel the events of Ocarina of Time inspire more heroes in games like Twilight Princess. To where in Ocarina of Time there was one man who stood to make a difference. There was only one. Whereas in Twilight Princess, there's still that chosen hero, but you know what? We can play a part in this too.
Ah, that's actually a really good point. I didn't actually think about that.
Like, we have a hand to play in this. We can help out as well. In Ocarina of Time, it's more like, who could stand against him? Who could do this? It's got to be this one kid. Maybe he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hope he can do it. Because I'm scared to hell.
And then, of course, with Majora's Mask, is that I felt like the only reason that didn't do it for me is that it felt like there were more World of Warcraft quests. Is that you do this favor for this one guy, but you don't ever need to see him again for the rest of the game. You just mark him off on your book, and there's no point in character development because you reset yourself back to the start of day one, so there's no point in it.
The thing about them, unlike Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, is the civilians are aware of Ganondorf and the Twilight and Zant. In Majora's Mask, they know about the moon. They don't know about Majora, and they think the Skull Kid is just a prankster. Just a little asshole going around screwing things up. They don't see him as a big threat. You're aware of the threat that is Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
The common folk don't. They're focused on the moon. So at that point, when the moon stops, they think everything's over. And then when the moon starts again and Majora's channeling it, and he's like, I will consume everything, I'm pretty sure the civilians are just more like, oh shit, this is the end, this is the end. They have no idea who's pulling the strings.
Alright, so Hyrule Castle overall, I think it does its job what it was supposed to do. Like, environmental-wise, it links close to what Twilight Princess's message usually goes out to what it is just an advancement of just with all the conflicts that have been happening. I think that's the greatest part about it.
It's good with gameplay and story, and I like how the final song that plays in this is a mixture of both the Hyrule Castle theme and Ganondorf's theme, giving you a combination of light and dark in a music piece.
Sounds good. Alright, the last dungeon that we have here is the Lanayru mining facility from Skyward Sword, which happens to be my top favorite dungeon from Skyward Sword.
Yeah, let's hear this story again, because you had bad first impressions.
Like, you've heard it from me in the first dungeon with the Skyview Temples. I hated that beetle, and the place just doesn't look appealing at all. Like, it just looks like it's supposed to be an abandoned mine shaft, and you're just using this beetle, like, left to right for, like, the first 5 minutes or something. I'm like, what are you doing to me here? You're torturing me. I remember that. I remember, like, compared to the rest of Skyward Sword, it used the beetle quite a bit, which I happened to not like. And then I remember hitting the time stone for the first time, and it was like, oh, this is a little bit different than what I was expecting.
Yep, it is the time stones that basically saves this dungeon and just makes it so unique and so creative. Because it's like 2 dungeons mixed into one.
Yeah, it just kind of pulled an Oracle of Ages of the 6th dungeon.
Yep, that's pretty much what it did.
And also with that though too is that it's a very original location. It's like you've never really seen anything mechanical like in Skyward Sword, or actually the rest of this Zelda series like this up to this point.
No, not so much mechanical. You mostly kind of like peeked at kind of the either the blacksmithing from the Gorons as seen in Goron mines, or like the very medieval kind of castles and stuff like that. Mostly in Twilight Princess. You never see an actual machines operating.
Yeah, that's true.
And even with Tower of the Gods, it was more like Atlantean golems and stuff like that. So it was still in that essence of fantasy. The Lanayru mining facility is like the first time a little bit of science fiction seeps into the world of Zelda.
Yeah. And it's what gives it a really powerful original concept that... Oh, like for me personally, when I went into Skyward Sword or something, like I played all 16 games before it. Like I've seen pretty much a lot of things that Zelda is capable of doing, which isn't really fair or anything, because with Zelda, like when it comes to the 3D titles or something, it's like they're kind of things that they kind of run off and go off and do, like outside of their 2D Zelda games. Like it has the 4 games before it. It's just simply doing more original ideas that the other 3D Zelda games haven't done yet. So
Right.
It's a little bit unfair with me because I played the 2D Zelda games and I've seen a lot of crazy crap that goes down. Like, for example, the magnetic gloves, and I've seen the magical boomerang.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of crap from the Zelda series, so it's very hard to impress me. That's just my 2 cents on it anyways.
Okay.
Is that, yeah, when it came to the Lanayru mining facility, I've never seen a mine shaft. Well, I guess I've seen it in Minish Cap a little bit, the second dungeon. But not in this way.
Yeah, it's more like a factory dungeon.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
You got conveyor belts, you got cranes moving along. Like, it's very unusual. Mm-hmm. And it's even more mind-boggling when you realize that this is now the predecessor to all the other Zelda games. So it's like, well, where'd all the machinery go? That's not how technology works.
Right. Yeah. I guess the only complaint I have towards this place is, well, at first the music was really bothersome to me. Like, for the longest time, it's like the Wind Temple from Wind Waker. Is that at first it really bothered me, but but after I listened to it probably about like 20-25 times or something, looped over or something, then I finally started getting into the realm of not minding about it. It's kind of something I just kind of desensitized myself to, if that makes sense.
It was for me.
Just kind of not too great, not too terrible.
Lanayru mining facility like one of the only dungeons in Skyward Sword that doesn't have a mini boss?
Well, yeah, that's right. It doesn't, does it?
And yet you don't really care because the dungeon itself is so engrossing, and before you know it, you're at the boss, and it's like, oh wow, wait a minute, where is the mini boss?
That's a really big dungeon too.
Yeah, so it's one of those areas where it doesn't have a mini boss, but at the same time, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything else, I'd be like, something's missing here. Where's the mini boss?
Yeah,
but with Lanayru mining facility, even though there isn't a mini boss, you're like, still, there was a lot of new stuff and fresh enemies showing off here. That it's okay that there wasn't a mini boss.
Yeah, I guess if I didn't think about it at all, then I guess that's a good thing. Well, I guess, when it comes to Zelda dungeons, sometimes they try different things, I guess.
Yeah. The gust bellows or whatever, they were okay. I didn't hate them, I didn't love them.
Mm-hmm. I liked how it worked with the switches and how you hid behind the minecarts while those beamy things tried to go after you.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Yeah, and how you had to incorporate the time stones as you were moving across the railways. Those were actually my favorite part about it.
Yeah, well, this dungeon also had the more puzzle-based enemies. Ones that you can't just slash. You have to either slash a certain way or get them into a certain position or wait for a certain point.
Or actually incorporate the item into having to kill them along with your sword.
Yes.
Like, for example, this is just for me personally. I'm actually going to bring up the Ancient Cistern for like 2 seconds, but this happened with This happened with Skyward Sword just a little bit. Is that it felt like you couldn't use some of the items on the enemies. Like, for example, with the whip or something, like you could hit them or something. It's like, well, in Wind Waker, like when you had the whip, you could like fling it away from enemies or something.
The grappling hook, yeah, you could use it to grab items off enemies.
Yeah, it's just like, well, with Skyward, and here with the Skyward Sword with the Gust Bellows, well, actually the Gust Bellows didn't do a good job of it either. Is that all you do is just blow away little scorpions and that's it.
No, you can reveal things in the sand as well.
Yeah, that too, but remember against the shield guys or something, like it didn't really do anything strong against them. Like, you couldn't like charge up the Gust Bellows or anything to like blow off the shield or something. So
yeah, the only enemy it worked on was not just the little scorpions, but like the big pufferfish things.
Yeah, that too.
You could guide them into other things to have them detonate.
Yeah. I feel like, though, for what it was trying to do, a lot more positives over the negatives, though.
I agree.
Is that I don't really have any complaints about this dungeon, just in general. I think it did everything right as it was supposed to, well, except for the first 2 minutes where I pretty much wanted to put a power drill to my temple.
Well, you just have to be patient when going and be like, alright, let's see what this dungeon has in store, because so far I'm not impressed. When you hit that first stone, you're like, okay, I got it.
I've noticed that with certain pieces of music, though, too, is that I hear it for, like, the first 30 seconds, and it's like, can you please pick it up? Please? 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 It's like, oh, okay, now it gets going.
Yeah.